Welcome. The world after viral outbreaks and toxic contamination is one of cinema's most terrifying visions. In this second part of the ranking, I'll show you 9 movies that take you from brutal street battles to surreal experiments of nature and even to claustrophobic walls hiding dark secrets. And at the very end, you'll see a disaster movie I'm really looking forward to. One that promises to be truly spectacular. Bushwick. Brooklyn is burning, and Bushwick is becoming a battlefield where no one is safe. Lucy, returning from a visit to her grandmother's, finds chaos instead of her familiar neighborhood. Armed attackers, explosions, and people dying in the streets. With no other choice, she teams up with Stoop, a former soldier who knows the taste of combat. Together, they try to make their way through streets filled with smoke and screams, where every turn could be their last. The film's intense pace and near real-time action leave neither the characters nor the audience a moment to breathe. It is a brutal vision of America, where war begins just around the corner, and the only chance for survival is courage and trust in a stranger. How I Live Now. At first glance, it seems like an ordinary vacation in the English countryside. Peaceful fields, quiet forests, the sun warming lazy days. Teenager Daisy arrives here from New York to get away from her problems and spend time with her cousins. However, the idyll does not last long. Europe is plunged into chaos, war breaks out, and carefree moments turn into a nightmare full of fear, separation, and a struggle for survival. Daisy suddenly has to find strength she never knew she had. The film takes the viewer from a delicate story about first feelings straight into a dark, apocalyptic world where every decision becomes a test of courage. It is not only a story about love, but also a brutal question: how to go on living when the world is falling apart before our eyes. The Darkest Hour. Moscow is awash in neon lights, but tonight, instead of fun, a nightmare awaits. The Darkest Hour throws a group of young Americans into the middle of an invasion no one saw coming. Aliens who are invisible and who reduce humans to ash with a single touch of energy. The streets are deserted, the city becomes a graveyard, and the only chance for survival is quick thinking and courage. This is not a classic battle with monsters, but a desperate run through the ruins and an attempt to find a way to defeat an invisible enemy. The film combines sci-fi with a survival thriller, showing that when faced with the unknown, humans become as fragile as the lights going out one by one in a deserted metropolis. Mortal Engines. After the apocalypse, the Earth becomes an arena for giant machines. Entire cities mounted on wheels hunt each other like predators in a battle for survival. In Mortal Engines, London becomes a steel monster that devours smaller settlements to sustain its existence. In the midst of this hell, fate brings together Hester Shaw, a girl driven by a desire for revenge, and Tom, a young history student. Together, they uncover a conspiracy that could destroy what remains of humanity. The film is a visual feast full of giant machines, ruins of a former civilization, and battles that look like a mechanical apocalypse. It is a story of anger, revenge, and hope in a world where steel has replaced the ground beneath our feet. Annihilation. On the edge of the world, a phenomenon appears that defies all laws of nature. Shimmer is a zone where time and biology do not work as they should. Animals mutate into terrifying beasts, plants form surreal shapes, and reality changes into a strange, disturbing vision. In Annihilation, a group of women, scientists and soldiers, set out into this forbidden area to find answers. They are led by Lena, a biologist and former soldier, for whom the expedition becomes not only a research mission, but also a personal confrontation. The deeper they enter the Shimmer, the more they lose touch with reality and themselves, and the nightmare begins to merge with mesmerizing beauty. It is a film that draws you in like a hallucinatory dream, forcing you to ask questions about the limits of humanity, self-destruction, and whether we always have to understand the unknown. The Bad Batch. In the wilderness of Texas lies a merciless desert where people rejected by the system end up. The Bad Batch tells the story of Arlen, who quickly discovers that this place is ruled by the law of the jungle, and survival comes at a high price. She falls into the hands of cannibals, loses part of herself in a brutal way, and is forced to fight for her life. In a world of cracked earth, abandoned ruins, and drug-induced visions, she encounters both ruthless leaders and strange loners who follow their own rules. It is a dark, hypnotic, and grotesque tale where Western meets horror and hallucinatory dream, and the line between humanity and brutality blurs with every step. Level 16. Behind the closed doors of the boarding school, young girls grow up in a world of cold walls and constant control. At level 16, everyday life resembles a ritual: meals, lessons, and obedience, nothing else. Vivian has long followed the rules, but when her old friend Sophia reappears in her life, she begins to see that something in this puzzle doesn't fit. Disappearing students, nighttime whispers, and disturbing procedures lead to a shocking truth that changes everything. The film builds an atmosphere of claustrophobia and paranoia, and the tension grows with every minute until the line between school discipline and nightmare becomes indistinguishable. The last days. Barcelona is plunged into a sudden, inexplicable crisis. People are terrified to go outside, and anyone who tries dies in agony. In the last days, the streets of the city are plunged into silence, and life moves underground, into office buildings and subway tunnels. Mark, an ordinary worker, decides to find his girlfriend, even though it means fighting his way through the ruins and confronting his own fears. Together with an unexpected ally, he embarks on a desperate journey through a world where the sky has become man's greatest enemy. The film mixes drama with apocalyptic survival, showing that the end of civilization does not always come with a bang. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a disease that robs people of the very possibility of life. Daylight's End. Years after a global plague, the Earth has turned into ruins, and the night belongs to bloodthirsty, vampire-like creatures. Daylight's End follows a lone wanderer as he makes his way through the wilderness in search of revenge and redemption. When he comes across a group of survivors barricading themselves in an abandoned police station, he is drawn into a fight for their lives. The monster attacks become increasingly vicious, and the lines between heroism and desperation blur in the fight for every dawn. The film combines the atmosphere of a classic survival horror film with intense action, showing a world where every day can be the last, and hope is the most valuable weapon man still has left. Before I show you the promised disaster movie I'm really looking forward to, I have one request. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell us in the comments which of today's titles impressed you the most. And now it's time for the big surprise. A spectacular movie that looks truly epic. The Great Flood. In 2025, the world faces a catastrophe that no one expected. Powerful downpours and bursting dams make cities disappear underwater, and people have to fight for survival in an ocean of ruins. The film's protagonists try to get out of flooded metropolises, where every roof becomes a raft and every street a death trap. Danger lurks everywhere, from violent currents and collapsing buildings to the desperation of other survivors. The Great Flood is a breathtaking tale of the end of a world submerged in the elements, in which grand special effects combine with the drama of people forced to fight not only against nature, but also against each other.